Hello, my name is Lauren Hall, and today I'll be discussing with you the preliminary results from my dissertation. So my research is primarily focused on using FEA, or finite element analysis, as a predictor of diet in multituberculates, which are extinct mammals. I'm using extant or living rodents as a comparison, as they have very similar cranial and dental morphology. Now, previous paleontological FEA studies have done dietary predictions for extinct animals previously, but these studies tend to model the teeth as continuous with the rest of the skull and use material properties for bone. There have been some studies that have modeled the teeth as enamel or dentine material properties, but these studies tend to focus on the teeth specifically and not the whole skull. There was one study that looked at the difference in modeling the teeth as continuous with the rest of the skull or having them modeled as separate material properties, but this was done in reptiles, and rodents are very different. To do this, I first downloaded CT scans of a rat and a guinea pig off of Morphosource. I then segmented out the cranium and the mandible with the teeth continuous with the bone. I segmented the cranium and the mandible without any teeth at all, and then the teeth by themselves. I exported these as 3D meshes, which I put into Blender to clean them up really quickly, put them into Mesh Mixer to make them solid and watertight, then put them into a Viso to reduce their surface size. From there, I put them into Strand 7, where I modeled the muscles of mastication, which you can see here in Figure 2. I applied different material properties of the bone into the teeth. When the teeth were modeled as separate structures from the skull, I had to use direct attachments in order to connect the teeth to the rest of the skull. Now, I did apply constraints to the temporomandibular joint and either the molars or the incisors to model different bites. Stress and strain was sampled at different points across the mandible and the teeth, which you can see here, which then Kruskal-Wallis and Tukey-Kramer tests were run on those. For the molar bite, there are similar patterns of stress and strain distribution across both the guinea pig and the rat. One of the first areas that we have higher stress and strain distribution is across where the zygomatico-mandibularis muscle attaches. The second one is on the bone surrounding the mandibular incisor. When the teeth are continuous with the skull, the higher stress and strain just kind of wraps around the incisor and the surrounding bone and is an uninterrupted transition of stress and strain, regardless of the fact that it just transferred from bone to teeth. While when the teeth are modeled as separate structures, we still have this high area of stress and strain, but it's located only to that bone around the teeth. And the incisors themselves have minimal forces, indicating during molar bites, they're not really getting a lot of forces. Now, for the rat, there was a statistical difference when the teeth were modeled as separate from the rest of the skull compared to if they were just modeled as continuous with the rest of the bone. The guinea pig, there was no statistical difference in how they were modeled. For the incisor bite, we have relatively similar patterns of stress and strain distribution as we had on the previous slide with the molar bite. We have higher areas of stress and strain around where the zygomatico-mandibularis muscle attaches to the mandible, and higher areas of stress and strain around on the bone surrounding the incisor. When the teeth are modeled as separate structures, we do see higher levels of stress and strain on the incisor themselves versus the surrounding bone, compared to when the teeth are modeled continuous. Now, the rat, it had a statistical difference when the teeth were modeled as separate structures. The guinea pig, it didn't really seem to matter too much if the teeth were modeled as separate structures, as there was not really a statistical difference, other than in the final strain compression, where then when the teeth were modeled as separate structures as enamel, there was a statistical difference. This is the first study in rodents that examines the statistical differences in FEA results when we model the teeth separate from the cranium and mandible, and we do plan to expand this and include more rodents. We do demonstrate that modeling the teeth does show a difference and gives us a better idea of how the teeth interact with the surrounding bone in life and gives us a more realistic view. Thank you.